Hi everyone, welcome to Talent Talks, quick fire questions to get to know leaders in recruitment. I'm Tom, founder and CEO here at Pinpoint, and today I'm joined by Nathan Keighley, Manager of Advisory Services at Scede. Scede are an amazing partner of ours and a Pinpoint customer. We're huge fans of what Nathan and the Scede team are doing. They're known for helping build world-class talent functions as a trusted scaling partner for global tech companies. Nathan, thank you so much for joining me today. Are you happy to get going with 10 quick fire questions?
Let's go.
Amazing. Look, first off, if you weren't in the talent space, what would you be doing?
I didn't have an answer for this. I had to ask my wife. I've done this the whole time she's known me. Prior to recruitment, I used to work in music, which probably explains the horrendous amount of tattoos on me. And she believes I would probably be a jingle writer. Writing jingles like adverts that you hear on the radio, the really awful ones, probably. I'd like to think I'd be in project management or something like that, but she's utterly convinced I'd be a jingle writer or still related to music and that kind of space.
I love it. First off, love the tattoos. I have one. It's horrendous. So let's not start on a competition there. I think second, amazing disparity in you and your wife's perspective on what you might be doing if you think you're a project or product manager and she thinks you're basically Charlie Sheen from 2.5 Men. But love it. I think it's great.
Yeah, she called me quirky the other week, and I'm still not entirely sure how I'm taking that yet.
I take it as a compliment. I think it's great.
Let's go with that route.
Amazing. So look, you said you've been in this space a long time. I think I'd love the sort of 60-second version of what took you to Scede and what your work looks like there.
What brought me to Scede is probably the same as what takes people to a lot of other companies. So for me, it was the people and the culture. So I knew someone here at Scede prior to joining them and knowing more about them, who reached out to me back in my previous position and said, look, I've got something on the go that looks like it'll be a great fit for you. But what brought me to Scede really was the people and the culture. So it's a company that prides themselves on data. I'm incredibly data focused, probably to a fault, might be the right way to put it. But to have the breadth of data that they have and the experience they have, how many companies like Scede have worked with over 250 different clients across the world, how many have helped scale businesses to IPO and to incredible growth. It is quite an exceptional company, and to get the ability to come in there and help and grow and build and influence the kind of change to make Scede even more well known is a great opportunity that would be a bit silly to miss out on.
Makes perfect sense. And we recognize all the success you guys have and obviously proud to partner with you in many ways. What's interesting to me is obviously you talk about these sort of 250 world-class companies and things like that you're working with. I guess, like, how do you mutually define with those organizations what success looks like for the sort of TA role you're playing, and how do you measure that?
I think important to note is it's case by case, right? Certain clients will have certain requirements. Certain clients will be at different stages. Some will be Series A, some will be Series C, some will be public. It fully depends on that. But if you get to the root really of what recruitment is, there's a project management measurement system that we use quite a lot here at Scede. It's called level of effort, right? So you can calculate exactly what metrics you need to do, what proactive activity you need to do to make sure you end up with the result that you're required for. So we engage quite a lot with level of effort. We have it within our own dashboards. I've put them into the team's individual sheets this year, so it's easy for them to see and know how to plan their week, be proactive, add delivery. But outside of sort of level of effort, definitely like quality of hire is an important aspect. It's hard for a business to scale if they're hiring the wrong people. You need to pay close attention, calibrate correctly at the beginning of a role. Customer feedback's a big thing as well. So that extends both to recruitment for candidate feedback. It's not always the nicest thing to receive, but it's vital to make sure that you can improve. But for a company like Scede, feedback from our customers on how we can improve. We're quite lucky to have really strong customer feedback, but it's making note of the ones that can lead to improvement. And it's something I think Scede and also our customers are aware of. That kind of feedback is vital to make sure that you have a better process, have a better recruitment function as a whole.
Makes perfect sense. I think like everything you said really resonated, but I think the piece on quality of hire is really interesting to me. Do you have a standard quality of hire sort of measure or calculation that you use with all clients, or do you work backwards from each individual client's definition of what that means?
Definitely work backwards, because every company is different. Like context is key as a sentence you hear quite a lot, but for certain companies, there's certain things you can do to almost guarantee a higher level quality of hire. If you go into sort of national or global statistics, it tends to prove that sourced candidates do end up being a better quality of hire further down the line when you do a 3-6 month review. So we really do push on sourcing as a business. We're there to add value and to get the candidates the company might not be able to get. And I think that's definitely important for scaling businesses or businesses that might not be commonly known of. Every company started off as a small place, be it Apple, Klarna,
100%.
And that proactive approach to getting source candidates, you can almost ensure that the quality is going to be a bit higher sometimes. So definitely with quality of hire, it's different per customer, but if you know what you're looking for and you're seasoned and what you do, you go by the statistics, right?
Yeah, super clear. We'll circle back to that in a little bit. I guess you've got this interesting, quite broad perspective on what a lot of organizations are doing in the market. And I guess super interested in what you think the big mistakes most talent teams are making today.
One of the things that definitely we see is focusing on short-term fixes rather than strategic planning, which we know is hard to do in this sort of economic market that we're in at the moment. Everything's very fast-paced. We don't know who's going to be putting in new things globally.
Yep.
That could affect
we do. Yeah.
Hiring super experienced sort of TA people because they're available only for them to leave when the market picks up, as we know it does. It's a roller coaster. There's always an up and there's always a down. Yep. Not spending time training TA. If you think about a normal way a business runs, every other department tends to have training systems. If you're a project manager, for example, you'll go and do your Prince 2 and supplementary ones. If you're change manager within IT, you'll do ITIL. Yep. You don't tend to see a lot of that within recruitment. You expect people to come in at the top of the game and stay at the top of their game. So investing in training TA, be it with an external resource or from an internal resource, rushing to get roles filled is another one rather than concentration on calibration. That's what leads to quality of hire problems, right? If you're not calibrating with hiring managers. And just generally the one size fits all approach to recruitment is the typical kind of problems that we see. Plus some weird random ones occasionally pop up, but they're the more typical ones.
Yeah, maybe we'll touch on those in a bit. I think everything that you just said, it makes a great deal of sense and really resonates with their own experience, right? Especially the sort of rushing to get a role filled rather than being quite iterative and flexible on the process. I think if I think about our own hires, often the people who've been unbelievably transformational to the business are people where we actually iterated on a role and a spec 3 or 4 times, often over 9 months or 12 months, which is embarrassing. But actually we'd go to market, wouldn't quite land. We wouldn't get somebody we felt excited about. We don't hire the second best candidate just because they're there. Do you know what I mean? And we've really, and actually you look back at that and you go, actually that took 9 months. That was a painful process. But those people are still here 3, 4, 5 years later and they've transformed that area of the business. And it's easy to say, it's hard to do, but it seems to always pay off, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think if I look back at my career over all these years, I can't count the amount of wild card kind of candidates that are outside of the remit that I've placed. The people that I think some recruiters would look at and just be like, no, or if they were using some form of, I guess we would probably get into this later, but AI to screen candidates, that AI would know them. Yeah, these people have turned out to be some of the most senior people I've known in my banking days and have gone to do incredible things, or people that changed transformation entirely within insurance as an industry, let alone the one company that they've worked in. But yeah, no.
I'm super in agreement with that. And I think that, to be honest, to me is a tremendous part of the value of the recruiter, right? Because anybody can roll out an AI system that's going to spit out very similar results to everybody else's use of it. It's your unique kind of lens that makes all the difference. And intentional or not, you use the word wildcard. And I'm gonna sneak in a wildcard question now, if that's cool with you. If you could instantly master any skill outside of recruitment, what would it be and why?
Oh, that's good. That is really good. There is one I've wanted to try to do and I've put it off absolutely ages. And I live in a really lucky place in the UK to do this and I've still not done it. I would like to learn the skill of actually building a guitar, like from scratch.
Okay.
There's not a lot of luthiers here in the UK, but there is one based down in Dorchester. I live in Dorset. And that's maybe one of the only big luthiers in the whole entire country. And they do these courses you can go for 2 weeks. I've always thought I was going to do it for my 30th, never did it. But that sort of attention to detail of like sort of natural resources, making something that will be played and loved by someone.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be something I would love to do, because I know it's a lot more technical than I think it probably is, and it would take a lot of time to learn. But I just never, I've got a 4-year-old kid. I have no time. Time is not a thing I have in abundance. So that would be, if I had all the time in the world, that is probably what I would go and do and enjoy it.
I adore that answer. That's really considered and very nice. And I would love to join you on that. I have a few old guitars that are quite well made, and I just have such a respect for the craftsmanship of it all.
Yeah.
But I also have a 4-year-old kid, and I also have no time. And so it's, yeah, we'll find a way, mate. We'll find a way.
Well,
yeah, I love that. Back to the task at hand, right? It's always interesting to me when someone goes out to the market and they bring an embedded talent partner like Scede into the fray. How do you think about that? And what do you wish those clients knew before engaging with an organization like you?
I think this might sound like a silly answer, but I think it will make a little bit more sense when I get into it. But it's in the name, it's embedded. What we find is our most successful clients, and the clients that we're able to add like incredible successes to, and Scede's motto as a business is we enable companies to achieve hiring success. And the companies where we really excel in that and become partners for years and years and returning customers, and the companies that engage with the whole of Scede, so not just embedded, but source and advisory and purple and people, are the companies that actually let us and enable us embed. So I know if you're in-house, for example, having this sort of external team come in and be a part of your actual team can be daunting for some companies, especially certain industries, certain requirements. But letting a team like us be embedded, not thinking of us as external contractors, letting us be part of the team in the stand-ups, involved in maybe more than you would let a normal contractor, is where people really see a shine to what we're able to do. We're not just recruiters there delivering. We can help with everything across the board. We're so lucky to have so many incredible senior recruiters that have worked for some amazing companies. Utilize us, let us in. And we're very lucky that near all of our customers let us do that. But it's so vital to making sure that we can come in and add value quickly and make sure that we enable you to achieve the hiring success we say we're going to do.
Just let us in. Like, I love that. I think it's so simple, but it makes tremendous sense. I think building on that, and perhaps thinking about the sort of broad range of teams that you work with, scale, size of team, industry, etc. Like, what do you think the highest performing talent functions are doing that everybody else should be replicating, aside from letting you in?
Yeah, I think, again, all of these can seem pretty simple, but it's getting them all right and making sure you're consistently doing them all. But one would definitely be sourcing. You'd be surprised, a lot of companies don't have time. That's a big problem we have in the industry at the moment. The recruitment teams are smaller than they have been, and they're staying small, but companies that need hires, I think they say, I've always gone by the metric that for a recruiter to do everything they need to do is probably 7 to 9 roles a recruiter, depending on what they're working on, be it tech, it can be different numbers per thing. It's not a direct number. But I know some recruiters, not with clients, but friends of mine that have got 30 something headcount each. And if you're doing that and actually having stakeholder management and actually doing candidate care, you can't do sourcing, you can't bolster your roles, and roles tend to stay open a lot longer. So sourcing, continuous improvement of processes. That's the one thing I love about advisory, is that's why I work on a lot of processes, and there's no perfect process. And I think staying stagnant with processes causes a lot of problems. If not now, it really will do in the future when you forget about it. So continuous improvement on processes. Another thing I see have a lot of success, and it's something I've always done when I was embedded when I joined, and I pushed before my time in embedded as well, is splitting recruiters per function. It's easier for recruiters to make relationships if they're consistently working in one business unit. So have a recruiter for marketing and finance, have one for tech, have one for commercial, and you'll see them build such stronger relationships with hiring managers and such higher influence with hiring managers that it has a natural effect on recruitment to be more efficient. And then training stuff. There's so many new things happening. We're seeing incredible leaps and bounds, not just in recruitment, but in technology. If you're not educating people on that, you can't make the most of the efficiencies these technologies give you without knowing they exist.
I love that. Yeah, and you've made that training point a few times, and I really appreciate you doing it. I think it's so true. And I think you talked about a diverse career prior to this. And I used to be in cloud computing and software development, and the culture of training and continual professional development and just having to keep pace with the market evolving around you is just so ingrained in that space. I think it's the biggest difference I observe between my kind of quote unquote old life and my life of the past 8-9 years. It's just, it takes a lot more effort to get businesses excited about training their TA teams. And to be honest, it often takes a lot more effort to get the TA folks themselves excited about the training. And I think anything that can be done to fix that as a sort of state of play for the industry, I think would be very warmly welcomed.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, love it. 3 questions, 1 wild card, 1 AI, 1 challenge, right? Let's go. Cliche as it might be, it's a desert island disc, right? You're stuck on a desert island with a record player. You got 1 album. You talked about music. What's the soundtrack?
Oh, I hate this question. Oh, I don't like it because I have to pick 1 album.
Is it?
I'm going to preface this answer with the fact that when I did work in music as a session musician, I only played in quite heavy bands, like very heavy bands. This is not going to be what you're expecting me to say. I don't think you can get it anymore. I don't think it's online, but it's a version of Cat Stevens' greatest hits. But it was this version of it, which I've never been able to find online. My mum's still got the original CD. It's just called Cat Stevens' Greatest Hits. It came out in like the late 90s. But I grew up on that album, shaped me as a musician in a very weird way, considering the genre I played in. But yeah, I don't think you can go wrong with Cat Stevens. It's just not an answer people ever expect from me. That or any album by TLC. It's also
I like
an answer. Yeah,
I like all of this. This is a great answer. Thank you, Nathan. That's brilliant. Much less interesting question, depending on your perspective, but you touched on it before. We can't get away with not talking about it today, right? There's a lot of hype still in AI and recruitment. I think you have this interesting perspective of doing advisory services, talking about process improvement, talking about new technology. Like all of these things play into this AI kind of shift. What are you seeing? What's real? What's noise?
I've talked about this before publicly, and I don't think it's a controversial answer, but I think there's a careful balance with AI. I think what's real is using AI to reduce recruiter time. I said it before, recruitment teams aren't massive anymore like they were during like the post-COVID boom. Recruiters have got more workload to do. So utilizing AI to take notes during meetings, using AI to maybe even help you source if you have no time to source, that's real benefit. That's real tangible things that AI can be utilized if calibrated the right way, especially when it comes to sourcing. What's noise for me is you hear real kind of candidate horror stories where they've been screened by a robot. And that for me is something that I don't understand. I don't understand as a person who's ran teams. I don't understand as a person who's been a candidate in the past why that would be a thing. What people need is human connection. What people need is to know they're speaking to a real human being. And candidates, at least from the research I've done, and I've looked into a lot, even in my own time, which I don't know if that's depressing to admit, but what I've seen candidates don't like is knowing that they've been declined for a role by a robot that's got a very small set of parameters. What a lot of the tools, and this isn't all of them, obviously, there might be some amazing tool in the future, of course, but what a lot of tools rely on is a job description. And if there's one thing all my years in recruitment's told me is most of the time job descriptions are wrong. That's why we calibrate with managers and we do kickoff calls at the beginning, and you find out half the stuff in the job description they don't actually want or don't need, or in some cases in enterprise businesses, they've never even seen the job description that recruitment's using. They're like, oh, I didn't know you had a JD. Knowing that's going into a robot, that's discounting human beings. I think that's noise, and I think it's not something we'll see, or something I hope we won't see is more of that happening in the future. I'm all for AI reducing time and reducing admin. I think it's a great use of it, but not for actually making decisions or interacting with people that might join your business. Spend time with them, get to know them.
I think it's a great, super articulate answer. I agree, and I've agreed many times with people with quite similar approaches, which I think is great. I guess the comment I'd make is when you were talking earlier, in an answer to a previous question, you referenced what I'm just going to reference as the squeeze of TA team sizes, right? We know what the market looks like today. We know about the volatility you referenced earlier. We understand TA teams are not going to get bigger anytime soon. And you said, oh, and forgive me for the exact numbers, but 8, 9 recs seems a good number. 30 probably seems a bit under-resourced. And in my mind, the first thing that happens when you've got 30 recs on your plate is that you spend less time on that iterative process internally with the hiring manager, understanding the real depth and scope of the role, getting that internal feedback loop tight. And I think about it much in the same way of these automated AI tools, right? The first thing you're losing when you've got a smaller team and you're replacing that team with tooling, the first thing you're losing is that internal dialogue and that internal. And I gave an example myself before of a process that took 9 months for the job description changed 4 times because we evolved it with the market that we were seeing. And I also share a big worry that the second you stop being supportive and start being replacement focused, it becomes a bit of an issue. Like I'm a CEO of a software startup business. My life is in an email inbox. I use Superhuman and I use AI in Superhuman to help tag emails and filter them for me and organize them in the right way and put them in different buckets so I can focus on the one thing. What I don't use Superhuman for, even though I can, is have it respond to my emails for me. That's the line I will never exceed. And I feel like we should think about recruitment in kind of a similar way.
There's very bright lines. I don't think it's difficult to see them. It's use AI to make your job easier, but not to do parts of your job.
Yeah. Again, I think like the let us in statement earlier, that's just a super clean way to encapsulate that. So I love that. Thank you. I think final question, and maybe we've touched on it, maybe we've not, but I guess what do you think is the sort of single biggest challenge facing our industry in 2025?
I think it's similar to what I've said before. I think it's economic uncertainty. I don't think necessarily a lot of people want to hear this answer, but this is the truth of the world we live in. Yeah. We don't know what's going to happen in 3 months. I don't know how much my mortgage is going to go up in September. I don't know that. And that kind of means automatically we're in a sort of a state of insecurity at the moment, as in terms of the economy, at least. So when it relates to recruitment, though, like companies are being more cautious with hiring decisions at the moment, and they're trying to automate too much with AI to save costs and balance the cost efficiency with having no office and ensuring cultural fit and distributed teams. There's a lot going on that kind of roots down to this sort of economic instability and uncertainty. And I think it's not necessarily only recruitment that suffers from it, it's all of us, but I think that definitely affects recruitment where we don't know who we're going to hire, how much we're going to hire, what we're going to hire for. Is our product actually going to be developed and launched this year? Are we be able to get funding if you're an early stage business? So it's just general uncertainty. I think we can see the blue sky over the hill. Quite optimistic about the future, but there's no guarantees at this point in time. So just an age-old adage my granddad used to say, which I think everyone knows, but it's prepare for the worst and hope for the best.
I don't think I've got anything to add to that, so I'm not even going to try. But that was wonderful. Thank you, Nathan. It's been awesome to have you. Thank you for hanging out with me today and making it through all 10 questions.
No, thank you ever so much for having me.
No sweat. Everybody else, you can follow Nathan and Scede on LinkedIn if you want to stay up to date with what they're up to. We'll put the links to both in the show notes. If you have anybody else anywhere near as good as Nathan to join me on Talent Talks, please do get in touch and have a fantastic day. Thank you for listening.